My sister betrayed me and married my millionaire fiancé. 7 years later, she bragged she had it all. I smiled back, "Have you met my husband yet?" I'm Wendy, 34 years old, female. And if I'm being honest, I don't even remember most of my mother's funeral service. The hymns blurred together, the flowers smelled too sweet, and my hands wouldn't stop shaking as I clutched the folded program. Alara, my mom, was gone, and the church felt colder than it had any right to be. But grief wasn't the only thing crawling under my skin that day. It was dread, because I knew sooner or later she'd walk in. Eudora, my younger sister, my mother's golden child, and the woman who stole my fiancé. Years ago, when I was 25 and engaged, I thought my life was steady. Darius, my ex, my first big love, was handsome in that cocky way that makes everyone lean in when he talks. He had this magnetic charm. Everyone adored him. Everyone except Zivian, his business rival at the time, who used to warn me Darius's confidence was hollow. I ignored it. I ignored every little sign. Until the night I found out Darius wasn't just mine anymore. He was also Eudora's. There's no clean way to describe what betrayal like that does to you. I walked in on them once. Her laugh, his shirt half open, her diamond bracelet flashing under the kitchen light, and something in me cracked. My sister, the same girl I used to braid hair with, the one who borrowed my clothes and stole my makeup, the one Mom always begged me to be patient with because she's younger. She burned my whole world down with a smile. I left town after that. Packed everything I could fit in my beat-up car and drove to Chicago. No goodbyes, and just distance. I thought if I built a new life far away, I could stitch myself back together. Chicago gave me anonymity, work, and eventually, Zivian Forrester. He wasn't flashy like Darius. He wasn't smooth, but he was steady, grounded, a man who listens more than he talks. He taught me the difference between being adored and being valued. I married him quietly, no spectacle, no white horse, just vows whispered like promises you actually intend to keep. And then Mom died. And I had to come back. When I walked into the church that morning, part of me prayed maybe Eudora wouldn't show. Maybe guilt or shame or sheer decency would keep her away. But right before the service began, I heard it. The clatter of high heels against the stone floor. I didn't even need to turn my head. The air shifted. The whispers began. And I knew. Eudora had arrived. And she was about to make her entrance count. Hey guys, real quick before we keep going, don't forget to sub and drop a like if you're enjoying the story. And tell me what you think in the comments. I'll feature the best one in the next video. The whole church seemed to pivot as Eudora entered, like a play where the villain shows up late just to make sure all eyes are on her. She didn't even dress in mourning colors. Black, yes, but the kind of black that screams cocktail hour, not grief. Her dress was skin tight, her stilettos clicked like a metronome, and her hand, oh God, her hand, was weighted down with diamonds that glittered under the stained glass light. Diamonds that I knew didn't come from love, but leverage. And there he was, trailing behind her like a dog on a leash. Darius. Older now, a little puffier around the edges, hair thinning at the temples, but he still carried himself like the world was his stage. He wore arrogance like a second skin, his arm draped possessively over Eudora's shoulders, as if daring anyone to forget what he'd taken. When Mom was alive, she used to say funerals showed people's true colors. That's when I understood what she meant. While I sat there with a hollow chest, barely keeping myself from crumbling, Eudora strutted to the front pew with the confidence of someone arriving at a gala. Not a glance at me. Not even a polite nod. Just a smug smile when she caught the whispers ripple through the room. My stomach twisted. Every memory hit me in waves. The night I found them together, the way Mom's face crumpled when she realized her daughters would never speak again, the cold silence that spread through our family like rot. She leaned down to someone behind her, Aunt Myra, I think, and said loud enough for half the church to hear, "It's strange, isn't it? How some people never find their footing. Meanwhile, Darius and I built everything we dreamed of." Her laughter rang like broken glass. I bit my lips so hard I tasted blood. Grief and fury tangled in my throat. This was supposed to be about Mom, about Alara, about goodbye, but Eudora couldn't let even death steal her spotlight. I kept my head high, though. I didn't turn and didn't snap. I'd been through too much to give her that satisfaction. Zivian sat on my right, his hand gently covering mine, grounding me. His presence was like a wall against the storm, quiet, solid, unshakable. And still, I felt my pulse drum in my ears, begging for release. Eudora wasn't done. After the service, as people filed past offering condolences, she sidled up to me with Darius in tow. Her perfume was cloying, her smile razor-sharp. "Wendy," she said, eyes glinting, "it's quaint you came alone. Some of us don't have to settle for solitude." Her voice dripped with poison, but she had no idea what was coming. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel small under Eudora's shadow. Maybe it was the grief. Maybe it was the years I'd spent rebuilding myself brick by brick. But instead of shrinking, I smiled. "You always did love making a scene," I said softly, keeping my voice steady. "But you've got one detail wrong." Eudora tilted her head, feigning innocence, though her eyes were already flickering with irritation. Darius smirked beside her, the same smirk I used to think meant charm. Now it just looked tired. "Wrong?" she echoed, her diamond bracelet catching the light as she adjusted her clutch. "Wendy, dear, you don't have to pretend. Everyone knows you never landed on your feet after what happened. No shame in admitting it. Some people just aren't cut out for more." Her words dripped sugar, but they cut like knives. The audacity of saying this at our mother's funeral, Alara, who begged us both to find peace, made my chest ache with a sharper kind of grief. Zevian stood then, calm, deliberate. He didn't raise his voice or puff his chest out like Darius would have. He simply placed his arm gently around my shoulders, grounding me in a way that said, "You don't have to fight this alone." "Actually," Zevian said evenly, looking straight at Darius, "she didn't come alone." The shift was instantaneous. Darius's smirk faltered just slightly, but enough. His eyes widened as recognition dawned. I watched the exact second his confidence cracked like cheap glass. "Zevian Forrester," he breathed, his voice barely audible. The whispers started immediately. The name carried weight. Zevian had quietly built a reputation in the investment world, outmaneuvering men like Darius without ever needing to grandstand. I'd heard stories whispered in Chicago circles about the deals Zevian closed, the markets he broke into, the way rivals underestimated him until it was too late. And now, here he was, my husband, my partner. Eudora blinked rapidly, her hand tightening on Darius's arm. "Wait, you..." She looked at me, then at Zevian, like the ground had shifted under her heels. "Yes," I said, my voice steady now. "I married Zevian, years ago. We built a life together, quietly, strongly, without spectacle." I let the words hang. Darius's face had gone pale, like someone had pulled the rug out from under his ego. And for once, Eudora didn't have a clever retort ready. Her lips trembled just enough for me to see the crack in her armor. In that moment, standing there at my mother's funeral, I realized something profound. They hadn't ruined me. They had freed me. The reception after the burial was supposed to be quiet. Coffee, casseroles, condolences. That's what Mom would have wanted. Instead, it turned into a battlefield. The second we stepped into the church hall, I felt eyes on me. Whispers bounced off the walls like bees. "Zevian Forrester? She married him." Every aunt, every distant cousin, every old family friend was buzzing with the revelation. And Eudora! Oh, she was unraveling. She clung to Darius's arm so tight I thought she might cut off his circulation. Her smile was forced now, her voice shrill as she laughed too loud, telling anyone who would listen about their vacations in Greece, the diamond anniversary band he bought her, the house they owned in Houston. Each word was a frantic attempt to drown out what everyone had just seen. Her sister standing taller, her husband humiliated, but people weren't listening. Their eyes drifted toward me and Zevian, toward the calm way he stood at my side, toward the unspoken contrast. And Eudora noticed. She snapped. "Do you all hear yourselves?" She suddenly barked, her voice slicing through the chatter. Every head turned. Her face was flushed, her mascara smudging at the corners of her eyes. "You're gawking at them like they're royalty. Do you know what Wendy really is? She's a failure who ran away when things got hard. She abandoned this family." The silence that followed was suffocating. My chest tightened, but I didn't move. Eudora's voice shook, part fury, part desperation. "She didn't care about Mom when it mattered. She didn't care about Dad. She only cares about her perfect little facade now, marrying Zevian just to spite us." Darius muttered something, trying to reel her in, but she shoved his hand off her shoulder. "Don't touch me. You think I don't see it? You're staring at them like you regret everything." That landed like a bomb. Gas rippled through the room. Darius's jaw clenched, his hand curling into a fist at his side. I stayed still. My hands trembled, but Zevian squeezed them gently, reminding me to hold the line. Aunt Myra finally broke the silence, her voice sharp as a knife. "Eudora, enough! This is your mother's funeral, not a stage for your insecurities." Eudora's eyes darted wildly around the room, but all she found were stares, judging, pitying, whispers too soft to catch but too loud to ignore. And for the first time in my life, my sister looked small. She stormed out, heels cracking against the tile like gunshots, Darius trailing behind her. The door slammed, rattling the picture frames on the wall. I exhaled, my heart pounding. The chaos she left behind was thick, but for once, it wasn't mine to carry. Update. Wow. I didn't expect so many people to respond when I first shared about my mom's funeral and the disaster that was my sister Eudora's entrance. I've been reading through the comments all night, and honestly, some of you made me laugh for the first time in weeks. To the person who said, "Eudora sounds like she'd shove a bridesmaid out of the way to catch her own bouquet," you're not wrong. And to the handful of people DMing me asking if Darius really looks as washed up as I made him sound, yes, worse actually. His ego aged faster than his face. But I need to clarify something. When I said Eudora snapped at the reception, that wasn't exaggeration. She actually screamed at me in front of the entire family, accusing me of abandoning Mom, accusing Zevian of being my revenge prize. People gasped, some left the room, and then she stormed out like a spoiled child slamming her bedroom door. Here's what most of you don't know. That wasn't the end. Later that night, after the last of the casseroles had been packed up and people went home, Eudora showed up at the house. Not her house. My father's, where Zevian and I were staying to help with arrangements. She pounded on the door so hard I thought the wood might splinter. I swear, I felt like I was 13 again, bracing for her tantrums. When I opened the door, she was standing there, mascara streaked down her cheeks, diamonds still glittering like she refused to take them off even to cry. She pushed past me without asking, muttering, "You think you've won? You think parading him around fixes what you did?" Zevian stepped between us, calm but firm. "Not tonight," he said. His voice carried the kind of finality that usually stops at people cold, but not Eudora. She started throwing things. First the stack of sympathy cards on the counter, then the flowers someone had sent. She grabbed a framed photo of Mom and hurled it against the wall. It shattered. That one almost broke me. I screamed at her to stop, but she was gone, sobbing, ranting, storming out again, leaving shards of glass behind. And here's the part that gutted me. When I cleaned up, I saw the photo she broke. It was the three of us, Mom in the middle, Eudora on one side, me on the other. It was from a Thanksgiving years ago, before all the betrayal. It felt symbolic, like she wasn't just breaking a frame, she was breaking the last fragile piece of what we used to be. And I think she isn't done yet. The days after the funeral were supposed to be quiet. Time for mourning, paperwork, and the numb routine of answering sympathy calls. Instead, it felt like I was living inside one of Eudora's storms. The morning after her late-night outburst, I found my car keyed. Deep scratches running down both sides, like someone carved rage straight into the paint. No note, no confrontation, just silence and damage. I didn't have to guess. That same afternoon, I got a call from my cousin Marlene. Her voice was awkward, careful. "Wendy, Eudora's been telling people you only married Zevian to get revenge on Darius, that you were still obsessed with him all these years." The words hit like a slap. I laughed at first, not because it was funny, but because it was so painfully predictable. Eudora always spun stories to protect her reflection, but this time I could feel the whispers sticking. Family friends started looking at me differently, their condolences edged with suspicion, as if I was the villain in my own life. Meanwhile, Darius tried to play peacemaker. He called me out of nowhere, his voice dipped in that fake charm I used to fall for. "Wendy, you know how emotional she gets? Maybe you could reach out, smooth things over? It would honor your mother's wish for peace." I nearly dropped the phone. The audacity. The man who shattered my engagement, standing by the sister who destroyed me, now asking me to fix their mess in the name of Mom. I didn't yell. I just said, "Don't ever call me again, Darius. Not for her. Not for anything." And I hung up. My hands shook, but it felt like closing a door that should have been locked years ago. Still, Eudora didn't stop. 2 days later, I came back from the grocery store to find her car parked crooked across the driveway. She was sitting inside, sunglasses on, engine running, watching. When I approached, she rolled down the window and hissed, "You think you've won because of him? You'll never have what I have." Then she sped off, gravel spitting under her tires. That night, Zevian sat with me at the kitchen table, quiet but fierce. She's unraveling, he said. And when people like Eudora unravel, they get desperate. You can't fight her with reason. You have to show her she can't touch you anymore. His words lingered. They weren't about revenge for the sake of payback. They were about reclaiming control. And for the first time since the funeral, I started thinking about what my next move should be. Update 2. I honestly thought after the funeral blow-up, Eudora would retreat, lick her wounds in private, but nope. If anything, she doubled down. Some of y'all in the comments last time called it, she's going to spiral until she humiliates herself. And wow, prophetic. But first she tried humiliating me. My inbox filled with anonymous emails. Obviously her, the grammar gave her away, claiming I was a gold digger who trapped Zevian because I couldn't stand being alone. She even went as far as making a burner Facebook profile to post old engagement photos of me and Darius, with captions like, "Some people never move on." It was pathetic. But when my aunt called, whispering, "Why would she say you're still in love with him?" It stung. I felt 13 again, painted as the jealous, bitter sister while she played the victim. That's Eudora's game. Ruin my reflection so hers shines brighter. But here's the thing. She slipped. One night she cornered me in Dad's driveway again. She was trembling, voice cracking, spitting venom about how her marriage with Darius was unshakable. But in the same breath she muttered something about their debts piling up. Her eyes darted, and I knew she wasn't flaunting wealth. She was drowning in it. And that's when it hit me. All those diamonds? Probably bought on credit? That dream house in Houston? Likely mortgaged to the bone. Her entire identity, the one she paraded over me, was built on appearances, not stability. Exactly the kind of hollow empire Mom used to warn us about. So when people here said, "Don't stoop to her level, just live your best life," and I get it. But I also realized something. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't screaming back. It's letting the truth shine so bright it scorches their lies. Here's what I did. At the post-funeral gathering when the family came back together to sort Mom's estate, I brought Zevian. Not for me, but because his calm, precise way of speaking makes people listen. And when Eudora tried to posture about her wealth again, Zevian casually dropped, "It's interesting how some people brag about assets they don't even own. Bankruptcy courts see through that fast." He didn't look at her. He didn't need to. Everyone in that room turned their eyes on her, her cheeks flushed. Darius shifted uncomfortably, like he'd been caught naked, and that's when whispers started spreading in her direction. Not mine. I didn't have to tear her down. I just had to let her facade crumble in the light. And believe me, it's crumbling. It didn't take long after that estate meeting for the cracks in Eudora's empire to split wide open. Word traveled fast. A cousin who worked in real estate mentioned that the Houston house had been on and off the market for months. An uncle quietly noted he'd heard about Darius defaulting on an investment. The whispers weren't about me anymore, they were about her. And then came the night she showed up at my father's doorstep again. Not in stilettos this time, not flaunting diamonds. She wore an oversized hoodie, mascara stains smudged under her eyes. She didn't knock so much as collapse against the doorframe. When I opened it, she whispered, "I can't do this anymore." For the first time in years, my instinct wasn't anger, it was exhaustion. I let her in. We sat at the kitchen table, the same one where Mom used to pour coffee and tried to broker peace between us. Only now there was no referee, just two sisters with too many ghosts between them. Eudora's hands shook as she confessed. The vacations were debt. The diamonds were loans. Darius had been unfaithful more times than she could count, but she clung to him because leaving would mean admitting she'd built her life on quicksand. "I thought if I won him, I'd won everything," she said, voice breaking. "But I lost myself. And I lost you." I stared at her. My chest ached, not with the sharpness of betrayal, but with a quieter, heavier grief. She'd hurt me in ways words can't cover, but in that moment she wasn't the villain. She was just a broken woman clawing at the ruins of her choices. "I can't forgive you overnight," I told her, my voice low but steady, "but I don't hate you anymore. And maybe that's a start." She nodded, tears dripping onto the table. For once there was no performance, just rawness. Later, when I told Zevian about it, he wrapped his arms around me and said, "Your mother would be proud." And I think he was right. Mom always said loss clears the way for clarity if you let it. Now, weeks later, the dust is settling. Darius is scrambling, Eudora is unraveling, but me, I'm finally steady, Zevian and I are expecting our first child. I look at my scars and realize they aren't chains anymore. They're lessons, proof that I survived. Mom's funeral wasn't the ending of our family. It was the clearing of the field. Painful, brutal, but necessary for something new to grow. And as I sit here, hand resting on my stomach, I know this. Betrayal may have broken me once. But love, real love, built me back stronger. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and like it. You can also watch more shocking stories in the playlist.